Hey everyone, it's Claire, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys specifically about how to remove and release anger from your body. So as you guys may know, my channel has been focused on a lot of healing from trauma, from childhood abuse, from C-PTSD, which is a complex type of post-traumatic stress that you develop over time from repeated abuse, perhaps in childhood, perhaps by narcissistic family members or friends, just people in your life. Before you were able to become aware and remove these people from your life, they probably have scarred you and damaged you. So that is something that happened to me, and it's been a long healing process, which I am still healing. Based on my experiences, I would love to share so that you guys can also experience some deep healing. Also, if you are interested in my healing jewelry, I do make crystal jewelry, wire-wrapped charm spiritual jewelry, which I will link in my description box below, and also link it here if you guys want to check it out and support my business. I would really appreciate that. So first of all, let's talk about anger. So anger is something that anger is an emotion that we all feel when our boundaries are being crossed or when we feel that there is some injustice being done. So if you are someone who has experienced childhood trauma and repeated abuse and boundary crossing of many types, then you most likely have experienced a lot of anger that you repressed. Now, why do you repress your anger in such situations? In my experience, it is because when you were young and you're in this situation, it is a learned behavior. It is a coping mechanism that you have to repress your anger, because if you were to actually express and get angry and fight for your boundaries and fight for your personal safety, you're trying to protect yourself, protect your boundaries, and protect your safety. But if you are around adults and they are abusing you, there's really no way that you can fully express your anger and fight for your boundaries, because you are conditioned to be afraid, you are conditioned to obey, you are conditioned to not express a wide variety of emotions, not just anger. You're probably being shamed for expressing sadness, all sorts of emotions. So it's not just anger. But anger is an emotion that, if it is repressed, it will lead to a feeling of powerlessness. And that is something that happens over time in the cases of, childhood trauma. You don't get to protect your boundary, and therefore it goes inside you. You swallow your anger over and over, and it builds up into a feeling of powerlessness because you just can't protect yourself. And if you did try at one point when you were young, you were probably shamed, you were probably ridiculed, or maybe danger was upon you for experiencing your anger. You were so small, there's no way that you could have fought back to an adult. And so you probably just learned, I'm not going to be experiencing my anger. I'm just going to go down and become powerless and allow this abuse to happen because there's no other option. It's basically just surviving at that point. And you were doing the best that you could. When you can't fight because you know that you will lose because you're small and young, then you just succumb and allow that to happen. And that's what leads to the powerlessness. So the anger for me was one of the hardest emotions to not only express after the fact in my healing journey, but also to identify, because I had repressed my anger so deeply for so many years, and it was such a shameful emotion due to my upbringing and the beliefs that I was taught, that I didn't even know what anger was when I was feeling it, because it was shameful. I was not allowed to be angry, being ridiculed for being angry, or just being shamed. When it did come up, I would just stuff it away immediately. So when I finally did start my healing journey, the anger was one of the most uncomfortable emotions. So number one, my first technique is to, first of all, identify that yes, this is anger that I am feeling. You have a right to feel that, and you can identify what it feels like. So the next step is to take your anger in some time that you have, some free time, and you can use a variety of different techniques. So one technique is if you have a pillow, you can scream into your pillow as long as you need to, as much as you need to. I did this technique, and the great thing about it is nobody can hear you from the other room. So if they are in the same room as you, they might barely be able to hear something, but if they are in a different room, you are safe to scream into your pillow and nobody's going to hear you. So go ahead and let it out. The next thing that you can do is you can actually punch a pillow or do some serious exercises that are going to relieve that anger. So punching a pillow, stomping your feet onto a pillow. So if you put a mat or a pillow on the ground, you can stomp your feet as hard as you can and just release that anger as long as you can. Take a break if you need to, it gets tiring, and then go back to it. Sometimes you can put double the pillows up and just pound them on the ground as long as you need to. You can reverse arms if you get tired and just keep doing that. You can be venting angrily, you can be spewing how you feel in the moment as you are releasing your anger. The next technique is if you have a vehicle, you can take your car or your vehicle and turn on some loud music and drive and just scream angrily. I know all these techniques seem really extreme, but hey, everyone has anger and we all need to release it. Might as well learn how to do it. So yeah, one of my techniques has been to go on a solo drive and just rage in the car with music on. This is a really great technique if you just want some alone time to deal with your emotions and really powerfully release that anger with some, yelling, screaming, emotion in the vehicle. I have found that it does get easier, so if you are really experiencing some deep, difficult anger, it's going to get better as you address the biggest, deepest roots and the parts that you have neglected and stuffed down for so long. And that's something that I had to really work through, was like, wow, I have so much deep anger and it is so overpowering. I just wanted to get through it because it was so uncomfortable, but it was so worth it just to get over to the other side of that anger. And I still deal with anger, but at least now I know how. The next technique is to exercise. So if you have an exercise routine, if you want to go running or swimming or biking or do something that's going to physically be moving the anger, the emotion, the energy through your body, you can lift weights, you can punch a punching bag, you can do all sorts of different exercises that are going to move the anger through your body. And that's also really therapeutic and it really helps. If you are just fuming and if you're just feeling that intense anger, then you can go do a workout and just get it out, let it out. The next technique is if you're dealing with mild anger, or let's say you've gotten some really deep anger out of the way, you've been doing these techniques, and you have some lighter anger that comes up, this is something that you can actually just meditate on as well. So that's another technique, just depending on how extreme the energy is. Now, this is something that I want to address with you guys because at the beginning of my healing journey, I used to sit and simply meditate on my anger only because I didn't know how to release anger. So I thought that, okay, I'll just sit and meditate on my anger, feel it. And when you are dealing with deep, deep trauma and deep repressed anger and emotions from childhood, from abuse, from neglect, from narcissistic family, friends, experiences, then meditating on your anger, in my experience, is really only touching the tip of the iceberg, and it's not really getting into the root to lift and remove the anger. With deep, deep traumatic and repressed anger, you're probably going to want to use one of the previous techniques to force and push and move the energy out of your body, whereas meditating and breathing exercises and, kind of calmer exercises to release anger usually don't work, in my opinion, for the deep trauma that some of us may relate to. I definitely recommend doing the other techniques if you have some deep, deep trauma and anger. Now, not to say that meditating and breathwork doesn't work. I feel like it works more if there's a mild anger. Like, you can feel, angry for a while. You can breathe through it. You can meditate on it, and it will move and dissipate much more easily than a big repressed anger would. All right, guys, so now on to my final tip here. So remember when I said at the beginning of the video that anger often has an underlying powerlessness to it because we were not able to express our anger, so we fell into powerlessness? So I just want you guys to know that along with your anger, when you are releasing it, when you are really feeling it through, a lot of times you may experience crying or deep sadness after your anger release. And what this is, you are now uncovering, now that you've experienced the anger, you are now uncovering that powerless feeling, and you are now able to release and cry the powerless feeling out. So don't be surprised if your anger turns into a deep sadness. You can cry it out, you can allow it to happen, and it will pass. And that's the powerless feeling releasing from your body so that you can become empowered and fully get rid of all of those feelings that you've been holding on to for so long. So those are some of my main techniques for releasing repressed anger, and I hope that this video helps you. Thank you so much for watching, and feel free to check out my links below as well. And remember, as always, you are so powerful, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys!